Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who always celebrates his goals and never kicks it out of bounds. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I certainly don't apologize to the team that I've just scored against.
We will be talking about James Rodriguez's decision later in today's show. I'm
going to say decisions.
Decisions.
There's some plural in there.
So Real Madrid tied Bayern Munich 2-2 in the semi-final second leg. So Desmond 2-2. It sends them through by one goal on aggregate.
It does.
That's tickled you, hasn't it?
It has. And also, I got to say, so I'm tickled by you. I'm impressed by Real Madrid. 3 Champions League finals in 3 years. The opportunity to go back to back to back. Pretty impressive, you have to say.
Not a bad start for Zidane.
No, I would say not.
He might not be bad at this whole thing.
And it is, I have to believe, sort of a saving grace for him in that he can kind of go back to, look, we've won all the silverware, or this most important silverware, because they are currently 15 points behind Barcelona, which I think in most seasons, if they were already out of the Champions League, maybe there'd be a little bit more pressure on Zidane.
There's a Clasico this weekend. It would have been a rough Clasico if Madrid were out of the Champions League.
Yes.
Right?
It's still going to be a rough Clasico.
And refusing to give Barcelona a guard of honor.
There it is. Yeah. I think that won't be too amicable, but I think they'll be okay with it given that they have the Champions League final to look forward to.
There you go. Should we talk about this game?
Let's do it.
It got off to a fast start.
It sure did.
It got off to a bad start.
It did.
For Real Madrid. Ball was in the back of the net once again from Joshua Kimmich. 3 minutes into this game, Bayern Munich had clawed a goal back.
And strangely, even though Kimmich scored it, it's like he had the least amount of involvement in this sequence because it starts with basically Bayern destroying Madrid down Madrid's right, Bayern's left, which is something they did pretty regularly.
Well, we're going to focus in on that, right? We're going to zoom in into roughly the right back spots and talk about what was happening there for Madrid.
Yep, and then it's a contested header. It eventually goes to Kimmich. Kimmich has the in-step volley, back corner. Suddenly it's 1-0, game on.
Is it a contested header or is it a weird decision from Sergio Ramos? If you watch this goal
I'm talking about the initial one where it goes back to Kimmich. No.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but I think you're right. Yeah, it is a little bit strange from Sergio Ramos.
It's a cross from Muller, right? And Sergio Ramos tries to sort of, instead of just putting his left foot through it, he tries to do a weird turnaround karate move, like a Zlatan clearance he's going for, and it hits Tolisso instead.
I think I'm honor bound to criticize anybody who doesn't use their weaker foot now because I've been so harsh on Jordan Morris in episodes past. So I have to say once again, if Sergio Ramos is left-footed, he clears this with his left foot, but because he's not quite as confident, and I have to believe if you're a center back right in front of goal in a very pressurized moment, you don't want to make a mistake and maybe concede an own goal or play the other team in on goal.
Yeah.
More on that later. So instead, I think he goes for his dominant foot, but then it is, as you said, it's like a flying back heel. That does not come off.
Well, Joshua Kimmich was plenty happy to use his dominant foot.
He sure was.
And bang it past Keylor Navas.
Yes. But
I say bang, it was like a heavy, like an aggressive side foot, right? It looked like a striker's finish to me.
I mean, he picked his spot and hit it cleanly. Yeah. And that's what you want to do in those moments.
Can we talk then about all the trouble?
Sure.
Because even though Real Madrid equalised not long after, I think the whole first half is Bayern Munich giving Real Madrid all kinds of trouble, especially David Alaba going down that left side. He seemed to be more free than he should have been.
It was so strange.
Had more space.
It was so strange to me because if you watched like a very specific few minutes in that first half, you would think like, oh my goodness, Real Madrid had 100% of possession because there are 2 chances, the goal they score, and there's 1 chance for Marcelo come about from a few moments of sustained possession. Outside of that, it's all Bayern Munich in that first half. It is Bayern Munich causing problems down the left, then down the right, then creating problems through the middle. It was really Madrid struggling to figure out how to deal with the Germans.
So what were the problems? We had a good look at this, right? And we've got several ideas. I think most people pointed to the idea that Lucas Vazquez, who is a right winger, was playing right back. In the absence of Dani Carvajal, and he could not fill the Dani Carvajal hole.
He could not. That's outstanding. I think most people would point to that one person who would not is Lucas Vazquez, who I have to believe literally said that to Zinedine Zidane. At one point he walks over, does the mouth cover, says something to Zidane. Zidane leans in, he says something else, and then shrugs, he being Vazquez. And I really think it was him saying, this isn't on me, man. This is something else. I don't know what to do.
And we went back and looked for this, right? This is as Nacho, who is a centre-back, right, but can play right back and is recently back from injury, I believe, who I think he would have been a lot of people's choice to start at right back for Real Madrid. Nacho had his tracksuit off. He was ready to go. He was sort of ready to enter the game. He was going to be subbed in like the 20th minute or so. And then Vazquez talks to Zidane.
Yeah.
And I would pay very good money to know what Vazquez said, that possibly saved him getting subbed out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. The only other thing...
Give me another chance, boss?
Well, I think it was... one... theory I have is that it was basically from a coaching standpoint. If you're the coach and you're focused on, like, if Vasquez, he didn't shut that down, he didn't cut that pass out, and you're focusing on the player and not the sequence of play, you might just think like, he's having a terrible game, I got to get him out there. But if you have that player say, I'm constantly in a 2v1 scenario and I don't know when to step and I don't know when to mark, I really need some cover over here, you might think, wait, it's not just him, it's something else.
Because then you could put Nacho in to replace Vasquez, and Nacho's going to have the exact same problems, I would imagine.
Do you think there's a chance? We have not talked about this at all. This only just occurred to me when you said that Nacho is a center back. Is there a chance that they were going to go to a back three? Because that would have maybe helped with some things.
You'd have to ask Zizou.
That's the only thing I can think. Because what we rewatched the entire first half. I would say we rewatched it and then maybe watched it like a half again to try to figure out what was going to happen and what made that substitution not happen. Because Nacho looks like he's about to come on. It looks like bib is off, jersey's on. He's getting the portfolio roll through of everything you need to do, and then suddenly he's back warming up. And there wasn't really any specific thing. We didn't spot any Madrid player like suddenly just standing on the right touchline blocking off passes for Bayern. So I don't really know what it was, and I would again pay good money.
It could have been what Vasquez said to Zidane. All right, can we get to this? Because we really picked it apart. What if Vasquez was explaining what the problem was and why he essentially kept letting David Alaba get free and run down the left and get crosses in? What would Vasquez's explanation be?
It would essentially be that Franck Ribéry did what Franck Ribéry did. He would come inside, which either occupies Luka Modric,
and he's on the left for Bayern.
Yeah, because Madrid came out in a version of a 4-4-2, maybe 4-4-2 diamond, something along that line.
And Modric is kind of the right mid, so he's Vasquez's partner on the right.
And so if you have Ribéry cutting inside, Modric is likely going to follow him, which theoretically leaves Vasquez free to cover for David Alaba. The problem was that James Rodriguez kept cheating over to the left side for Bayern Munich. So suddenly, if Ribéry went inside, Modric might step to James Rodriguez, which leaves Alaba being marked by Vasquez, but now Ribéry's open. So if Vasquez goes to Ribéry, now Alaba's open. And it was a constant 3v2 situation.
Constant confusion. I actually think Vasquez not being a defender, it just makes it harder in that situation, right? I don't think it was a solvable problem, but I think a more experienced defender would at least sort of have taken positions that minimised his exposure, if that makes sense.
And I haven't seen the...
It's like having a good bankruptcy lawyer. You know what I mean? You're still going to go bankrupt, but this lawyer will help you do it in the correct way.
Exactly, and maybe not as brutally. And I would say, you told me about the UEFA position charts, but I was really wondering if it ended up looking like Luka Modric in the first half was a right back, because that did seem to be part of the solution for Madrid, was that maybe Modric sat back and kind of tried to block off passing lanes, and then that allowed Vasquez to make a few more charging runs and try to put pressure on.
So Modric looked like a right back in the average position charts. And actually, I think we've made this. There may be some people listening who maybe got lost when we were talking about sort of the various James overloading the side and all that sort of stuff. I actually think this comes down to a very simple problem. Which is that Real Madrid played basically a 4-4-2 with four midfielders. Bayern Munich played a 4-2-3-1 with five midfielders. That's the simple reason why there's always a Bayern Munich man spare and confusion in the Real Madrid defensive midfield, is that they just had numerical advantage.
And then I think you also had a lot of times you'd have the back four marking three players, which left Sergio Ramos. I felt like was often the one who was free. But if he was the left center back and you have Bayern coming down their left, then that's great. You've got a defender open, but he's on the far side of the field. He can't really contribute much in terms of covering more players. So it always felt like Bayern had at least one player wide open in the first half.
Banyet. Real Madrid equalised with with a 28 pass sequence. We counted it and enjoyed it because it was a really good move.
It was,
and it could have been more, right? If there wasn't sort of a defensive header that then Real Madrid recollected the ball in between, it could have been more like 40.
I think you'd be up around 37. I think it was. I think we were at 11 when that header happened.
So Benzema's header to score, it comes after a 28 pass sequence from Real Madrid that was sort of an expert's guide to how to pick a team apart.
Yes, it was. And you said it could have been more. I would say it could have been fewer because it seems like Madrid...
You're a contrarian?
No, it's because Madrid were looking, I think, to do something very specific, and they kept trying to do it, and it kept not being on until it was. And that thing was to have Marcelo push forward and maybe occupy some space. And when Bayern finally get pulled out and it's an open pass, it's that long diagonal straight into the channel. Marcelo's there. They look for it.
And for those who didn't see, Marcelo is their left back.
Yes.
The very attacking left back for Real Madrid.
And Modric looks for it 2 different times before the third time he drops it to Kovacic, who does play that ball.
My guess is that they keep going to the right, to their own right, and then Bayern sort of shuffle over to try and squeeze the space there. But then it leaves Marcelo with more and more space, and then they're just looking for that quick switch, essentially. So they swing it. I don't know. I only counted the passes with you. We were sort of sitting here in the studio going 1, 2. But it looked more like you could have counted how many times they swing like a pendulum from right to left and right to left. How many times Luka Modric looks up to see if it's on yet, and he's very patient, and he doesn't. The team doesn't do it until it's the perfect moment to ping it out there to Marcelo.
And I want to say, I know this sounds very obvious. I'll explain myself. I'm not trying to sound like Bert Hapley. I would say a person who is very much responsible for Marcelo being wide open on that left flank was Marcelo, because the time before, when it's on the left side, before they end up playing it to him and he gets the assist, I think it's like Ronaldo and Benzema both come towards him. They don't really make like runs behind the line. They just kind of drift over there. And you can see Marcelo very visibly yelling and telling them to get away. And so they turn and they go back central. And when they do that, Kimmich follows. So too do the other Bayern defenders, which leaves Marcelo wide open in space. So it's Marcelo saying, I know what I'm doing. Get away from me.
Yep. It's kind of like zombies, right? They just sort of follow who's around. So this would be Marcelo sort of injuring 2 of his party and leaving them behind for the zombies to eat.
So you're saying we need to stay with Marcelo is basically what it is. Try to stay with him at all times. He can just tell the zombies to leave and go eat other people. All right, cool. Although then he'll turn and tell them to eat. It's not good. Never mind.
I will say this whole plan doesn't work unless Marcelo's touch is as perfect as it is. Because as it gets pinged out to him, you said it was Kovacic who pings it out there.
I believe it was,
if he has to take like a... If his touch isn't perfect, then he can get closed down by Kimmich or whoever it is that comes over to him. But because he sort of takes one touch in stride and then can look up and cross, before there's even chance for a defender to offer any sort of resistance, that's why it's sort of he makes the most of the time and space that he is given.
Yeah, I mean, Kimmich still...
Just like Doctor Who.
Kimmich still does a really good job to get out there and put Modric under pressure, Marcelo under pressure. But I think because now Kimmich has been pulled inside and has to react and get back outside fast, he is running to close down space, and Marcelo can react to that and then just touch it a little bit past him, get it to the end line, play that ball. And I think we both noticed that it's Marcelo essentially saying, this is where this ball should go. Somebody should probably be there. Because it is not looking for Benzema standing at the back post.
No.
He plays it to the back post. Benzema adjusts his run and is more or less wide open to head that one in.
He's telling Benzema how to do his job. It's like, this is where you should be. This is where the ball's going.
It is a very good ball.
Because it's not like it's a sneaky run from Benzema where he loses his defender by coming inside and then going outside, right? It really is sort of, he goes where Marcelo tells him to go.
He sure does. And I think maybe after this goal, you have the other opportunity where Marcelo comes down, probably should have squared it, maybe should have just shot. Instead, he kind of doesn't.
That was on.
Either should have squared it faster or shot when he passed it. But either way, outside of that, it was a a lot of Madrid
maybe he thought
off.
Manuel Neuer was in goal.
Yeah, that could be. Although that was very obvious in the first 12 seconds of the second half. But outside of that, I think it was Madrid sitting off a little bit more, which is not to say that they didn't play very well or anything like that. It was just more so, it's what you do when you scored the goal that you need to score to kind of put things back where you are in the advantageous position. You don't need to be stretched and have everybody all over the place more. You need to sit back and cause problems for Bayern and not let them score.
And yet, if we're going chronologically, Bayern should have had a goal just before halftime.
Yes.
Right? They should have had a penalty kick when Marcelo handballs it in the box.
Well, there was one even before that, but I don't know if we want to talk about James yet. It's up to you.
You go for it.
In the 33rd minute, there's the one. This is the one where the ball comes in. It's a great run from Mats Hummels. He plays the ball in for Lewandowski.
Yes.
Lewandowski heads it up. It goes to James Rodriguez, who has the volley, hits it over the bar, and then crumples to the floor. John Strong says, he's going to have a bruise on his chest for his efforts. We've watched this many times. I don't see anybody make any contact with James Rodriguez.
I think he gets a pride punch. That must be the only thing that can happen. Because he stays down as if he's been hit hard.
He sure does.
There's no contact.
He is just
contact. Embarrassed and down, right?
Yep.
And maybe it's partly because these are his employers at the Bernabeu. I'm not saying he missed on purpose, but I'm saying he's embarrassed by the miss. So in front of all the Real Madrid fans, he wants it to look like there's a good reason for him putting it over the bar and not just that his finishing was that poor.
And you can do that when it's amateur level with no cameras. But when there are many, many cameras and approximately 80,000 people watching, it's going to get noted that I don't see anybody kick him or hit him or punch him. Seems like he's just kind of gone down and is maybe trying to cover for the fact that he should have scored.
James is the hero and the villain, right? Because he's so responsible for for doing that overload for Bayern that caused so much trouble down the left side. And then he scores the second goal for Bayern later in the game. But I mean, there's so much good and bad about James. I'm really sort of holding my fire to talk about him later.
That works for me. But
you know who would not have seen whether James was hit or not?
Who's that?
The extra assistant referee.
This is very true. And I was going to say the man who could have been, we both had segues, the man who could have been the hero and villain.
Are you still doing yours?
Yep. The man who could have been the hero and the villain would be Marcelo, because had this handball have been called, he's the man who has the beautiful assist, but also concedes the penalty, and probably should have, because that looked like a handball in the box to me.
All right, first of all, mine was better. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. No, yours is better. You're right, yours is better.
So it's definitely a cross. Marcelo does what we call the Yedlin, because Yedlin did it in the Copa America, right? Where you sort of jump in the air, spin around, but your one hand is flailing, and he definitely handballs it. We've double-checked. It's also definitely inside the box. It's just inside the line, right? So it's definitely a penalty kick. The one reason we think it wasn't given is the referee's view is obstructed by Marcelo's body, right?
I think there may also be another player between the referee and Marcelo when that contact occurs.
The linesman, the assistant referee, actually can't remember if he's on that side or not, but if he is, then Marcelo's back is to him, so his view is obstructed. But the extra assistant referee, do we call them the fifth official?
We call them incompetent,
but the guy on the end line, who's sort of the UEFA Champions League replacement for VAR, because they can see incidents in the box, he has a clear view at this. He's looking directly at it. He doesn't move. He doesn't call it.
Now, here's the thing I do want to say. It took me a really long time to realize that they have a mic connected directly to the center official, and I think they have been instructed not to react to anything. Because I always watch them, even when a penalty is given, even when they're the ones calling it.
Those guys who are painted gold, and they've got
exactly, just like those.
You have to hold the
You
position.
went for them over the British soldiers who aren't allowed to move? You have to stand there?
Because they're not a laughing matter.
There we go.
Serious men.
My mistake. Hands up. Much like James Rodriguez. But I always expect them to like point or nod or something, but I think they've been told, don't react, don't do anything that draws attention to you, just say, yes, it was a penalty. But even so, you can see him looking at Marcelo. He has to see that contact, and he doesn't do anything. And I think if you're a Bayern fan, I am of the opinion that Bayern kind of shot themselves in the foot in this one, and maybe like a little bit played into Real's hands on a couple of occasions, and that's what cost them. But I think you can feel slightly aggrieved by this lack of a decision.
Absolutely. So this game absolutely turns on what probably amounts to about 45 seconds of play, right? Right at the end of they're not connected because there's 15 minutes in between. But right at the end of the first half, that should have been a penalty called on Marcelo. So it should have been Bayern 2-1 at halftime. Would have been all things level halftime.
But man, you are right though that if you cut that out, if you're doing the abbreviated game and you put that together, it does look like handball not given, and then they're reeling and have a terrible mistake, and it leads to what I'm going to say a half Benzema goal, half own goal.
Is it possible they spent 15 minutes being really angry in the locker room?
Well, if so, then that's
Joshua Kimmich was
stupid.
Yelling at the ref and all that sort of stuff. So
they all were.
We're speculating there, right?
I mean, well, we are, but it is fair to say that, as we always say, if you're going into halftime 2-1 up off of a penalty that like just was scored and now you're in the exact right position, it changes that halftime talk. Whereas if you're going in feeling like that was our chance, I can't believe we didn't get it, it's just a different vibe, certainly. And that might play into your second half preparations and how you go about mentally preparing as well. So maybe you're not as sharp as you would be otherwise.
Yeah, well, whatever the second half preparations were, they were not good enough, because within 28 seconds, I believe, Real Madrid have the ball in the back of the net. Benzema, 2 goals today for Benzema, makes it 2-1. So this is Tolisso under pressure after some really good Real Madrid pressing, passes it back to Ulrich. And as Stu Holden correctly noted, I think live on the broadcast, well done.
I just tweeted about this. Yeah, well done, Stu Holden.
Yeah, we're missing some nickels. Ulrich comes out and I think he maybe sees Benzema coming and goes down to pick this ball up. Then last second realises, oh no, Tolisso passed this to me. Then sort of tries to stab a leg at it. And then it ends up just collapsed on the floor as Benzema can just stroll in and finish the loose ball.
And may actually, because of that slip, may have been megged in the process.
Yes, I think he kind of megged himself,
And we watched thinking like maybe he was distracted by something and
lost his footing or something.
Or didn't see who passed him the ball, and so he thinks, I can pick it up. I just think it was a mental lapse, and I think it probably points to he wasn't expecting to have to be in a pressurized situation inside of a minute in the second half.
I've heard Manuel Neuer talking about how he really likes Ulrich and would like him to be the third goalkeeper with Germany at the World Cup. I mean, this may be a high enough profile mistake that this could cost Ulrich a trip to Russia.
I think it could. I think there's a decent shout given that you've got, I mean, Ter Stegen is your number 2, but there are lots of other potential goalkeepers out there who have not
done that,
given up a howler in the Champions League semifinal. I would say, though, you noted it earlier, that a big part of this, we're criticizing Bayern Munich for maybe not coming out as sharp as they should have. Maybe that's because of a lack of a penalty. Who knows? Real Madrid, on the other hand, you spotted this one. It seems like there is very much a pressing trigger that they come out maybe thinking, if we can kill this game off in the first 5 minutes of the second half, didn't even take them that long, then we can really kill this off. And so you see them, you spot it, as soon as the ball gets dropped back to the center backs, everybody steps. It's a very aggressive step from Real Madrid.
I want to explain pressing triggers. Maybe if there's, I'm guessing our audience is like half and half. Some people are going to be, no, Daryl, don't explain it. I know what it is. Some people are like, what are you talking about? I want to know what it is. So we're going to explain it. So you see teams press, right? They, as in, like, everybody steps high and goes after the ball and won't let the other team play it out of the back. But you don't see them do it all the time. And yet it's synchronized and coordinated to make sure it all happens at the same time. The team all goes together. The reason they all manage to go together, usually there is what they call a pressing trigger, which is when X happens, we do it, right? And X in this situation, I'm pretty confident, is a defender plays the ball backwards. Because you see David Alaba at left back, he looks up, tries to play the ball forwards. Everything is blocked off. Someone has stepped really well to block off Thiago, right?
I believe that was Kovacic.
Kovacic has stepped to block off the pass to Thiago. So David Alaba turns around and passes backwards. And you see all the Real Madrid players, suddenly they're on it, right? They know that's the moment to go. And then from that moment onwards, Bayern Munich are under all kinds of pressure. They can't get the ball out. It ends up with Tolisso playing a very bad pass back to his own goalkeeper.
And I would say a key part of that, if you go back and watch this, is so it's the Kovacic step that takes away Thiago, so then it has to come all the way around to the other side, to Tolisso on the right side for Bayern Munich. And it is Asensio, as soon as that ball goes to Tolisso, as soon as it is played, he is on a full sprint, a good 25 yards, I would say, to cut down any options down the line. So basically, Tolisso has to turn back. Doesn't really have anything else, so then he tries to pass it back to Ulrich. But it's good little moments of individual effort from Real Madrid lead to a calamitous decision from the Bayern goalkeeper and the second goal for Karim Benzema.
So just to highlight this one more time, if you want to see a pressing trigger in action, the first 30 seconds, even the first 15 or so seconds of the second half of Real Madrid-Bayern Munich, you will definitely see one. And it's when David Alaba can't go forwards, plays the ball backwards.
Yeah, and I would say...
Or watch the whole Liverpool game.
Or that too. Yeah, but I would say, it's a good specific moment, and I would say focus on Alaba dropping and focus on Kovacic making that, we've dropped, we're going. And he really does just leave James Rodriguez and sprints 20 yards forward.
Oh, speaking of James Rodriguez. Okay, so he scores the equaliser. He scores the equaliser. Was that a segue?
What?
Was that a segue? That was
I don't know.
That was better than your first one. James scores the equaliser in this game, makes it 2-2. It meant that Bayern only had one more goal and they would be away on in the lead on away goals, right? So it's a really big goal. But I genuinely think that he sort of ruins the momentum of that goal by refusing to celebrate it. Is the goal itself worth talking about?
I mean, it's good work from him to make sure that he follows through, that he doesn't stop to protest because it maybe was a handball from Varane. So he still does a good job. It's still good movement from Bayern. But I'm with you, though, that I think that in that moment, if that's another player, if that's Thomas Muller, he's picking the ball out of the back of the net. He's getting everybody ready. He maybe turns in, cheers up the Bayern Munich fans, and everybody's into it. And for James Rodriguez, I mean, his face is the face you make when you are apologizing. He has his hands together, almost in prayer, and he's sort of like, I'm so sorry I did this. And it's just like, these people didn't want you, man. They got rid of you. Why are you not celebrating? This is your moment of I did it. See what you're missing?
There are so many reasons why this... I think Alexi Lalas called this out on the Fox broadcast. Alexis, I'm 100% with you. I hope maybe that Alexi gets to have a rant on the State of the Union podcast, which everyone should listen to. There are so many reasons why this was a bad mistake from James. I mean, one, you rob your teammates of the chance to sort of get amped up and all that sort of stuff. You rob the away fans of the sort of the revving up that you give them to be more vocal. You send a message that it's more important to you what's going on next season with you and whether you'll be at Real Madrid again or not, versus what's going to happen in the last 20-something minutes of this game.
And even if that seems...
You're sending the message that you're not in the moment and committed.
And I feel like we maybe should have looked this up, but I feel like it's already been kind of stated that there's an option to sign at the end of the loan deal, whatever that's called.
Option to buy?
Thank you. And that he is... they're going to exercise that. So I don't even think he will be. I don't think there's even a chance he's at Real Madrid next season. It felt to me like, I want you guys to like me. Remember how good we were for a little bit of time there? And I'll say this. Never having played in the Champions League, never having played in that high of a level, but I will say
Virginia Champions League.
there you go. But I would say that if we were playing against your old team and you scored and we were all up for it and you were just like, no, I'm not celebrating. I know that happens sometimes, but if you're in this emotional moment, it would make me be like, does Daryl not want to play for this team? Like, is Daryl not into this? Come on, man. Like, I'm not focused on like, yeah, we're a unit. I'm focused on like, that was kind of weird. And I do think you saw that with some of his teammates, sort of like grabbing his face and be like, hey man, you did it. Like, let's go. We're doing it.
Are you happy? Tell your face.
And even just from it. And even what's that from?
It's from the Donald Trump roast.
There it is. Thank you. Thank you. That's good stuff, Daryl. But even the idea of, as I said, if it was Thomas Muller, he maybe celebrates, but he also gets the ball out of the goal. He doesn't run to the sideline and then stand there in like penitent sadness for 10, 15 seconds and leave the ball in the net. Like, there's still, time is a wasting, man. Get to it.
Time is a wasting.
Yeah.
So, he could have just not celebrated and been very stoic about it, but got the ball, took it back to the centre circle, sending the message, okay, I'm not disrespecting my theoretical current employers, but also we're getting on with this and I'm up for the next goal.
And here's the thing, for people wondering why we're frustrated with James but not, say, Mohamed Salah for doing the same thing when he scored against Roma. The difference, I think, would be
because they were crushing Roma.
Everything we've just said, but also it's compounded by the fact that late in the game when Madrid are starting to do their, like, oh, I suddenly have a cramp. Like, let me take up some time. Ooh, I've landed on my hip wrong. I need a stretcher. That it is, I think, Asensio who goes down in a challenge, stays down. Madrid players all demanding the ball be played out of bounds. Why would Bayern aren't going to do that? They're chasing the game.
Yep.
Sportsmanship or not, that's your team, and the person who plays it out of bounds.
This is the same. Bayern's the same team that took advantage of their own fast ball boys in the first leg, right? They're the team that's doing this.
And they already established it. There was a drop ball earlier when there were 2 balls on the field, and Bayern didn't just give the ball back to Madrid in an attacking position. They kind of took it really sneakily and then hoofed it down the field, and were like, now you can have it back. Like, it was established they are being ruthless and competitive. And so the fact that it's James Rodriguez who puts his foot on the ball and passes it out of bounds, and then it ends with Bayern getting the ball back, but it's all the way back to Ulrich when they eventually get it. It kills attacking momentum again. And I think you take those 2 moments and add them together, and it just feels like it was James Rodriguez thinking, I want to win, but I also want to be liked, and I want my ex-teammates to be like, oh yeah, he is a good guy, and not be mad at me at the end of the game.
Benedict James.
There we go.
Can we... So Bayern go for it, sort of. Despite James'
it would be Benedict James if Benedict Arnold then betrayed the British and came back. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Bayern still go for it.
Yep.
They bring on Wagner, all 6'4" of him.
Yep.
And then they forget how tall he is still want to create the perfect crossing option as opposed to just launching it into the box.
And here's the reason why I'm sure there are Madrid fans out there who feel like we are giving Bayern too much credit or too much focus, but this is a great example of that in why we're doing that, because they do that absolutely. There's 5 minutes added on. We're in the 96th minute at this point. They get a throw in, they play it back, they work it around midfield, and we're both losing our minds. And then Joshua Kimmich hits a almost inch perfect pass to Thomas Muller, who is wide open in the box all of a sudden. He just fails to control it. It goes out of bounds.
Maybe that was the Bayern plan, was to sort of genuinely fake like we're just going to the big man, or at least have everybody occupied with the big man. But then someone like Thomas Muller will find a pocket of space and we can hit him, and it nearly works, right? There could have been that winner in the final few seconds.
But that's my point, is that like even when it feels like Bayern are sort of like taking too long or being a little bit slow, or like, oh, you had your opportunity, they then have another opportunity.
I see,
That's what I mean when I say that it didn't ever feel to me like Real Madrid really like locked the door, shut it down, didn't allow any opportunities. Bayern had lots of chances, and the man who really did shut it down, if we want to go that route, is Keylor Navas. He's the one that I think really Bayern fans will not be pleased with. Real Madrid fans should be very pleased with.
Repping CONCACAF.
Yeah.
Repping CONCACAF.
That's what it is. It's definitely the difference,
So in some ways, Bayern Munich got CONCACAF'd, but not in the traditional CONCACAF Champions League way, they came up against a CONCACAF goalkeeper.
He did a little CONCACAFing too.
He did.
Yeah.
But he also had incredible reflexes.
Yes.
I really enjoyed his ability to sort of make the save and somehow send the ball many, many miles away from where it was.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that is a very impressive aspect of what he did today, because it was reflex saves. He had the one off the deflection where he somehow gets a hand out.
Changed direction.
But even to your point,
I shouted, where did that hand come from?
Exactly. But even when he gets a hand to it, you would expect in that moment that you're all you're thinking about as a goalkeeper is like, oh, I stopped it from going in. I did my job. Somebody's got to follow the runners. The fact that not only does he stop the ball from going in, but also with that same mystery hand, pushes the ball 15 yards down the line.
Third hand that has been hiding all these years.
I mean, that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
I knew it all along. He was Goro the whole time. I think he had 4 hands, but still. But like just the ability to then also put the ball out of danger at the same time, and he did that every single time, I thought was incredibly impressive.
So also impressive, I think, Varane. I think Ramos had a couple of weird mistakes and weird like body shapes that he took on trying to defend certain crosses. But every time it came down to Rafael Varane, he was throwing himself in front of balls, putting in slide tackles, closing down danger. This was the game where I really took notice of Varane is... Actually, it's the only time I've seen Varane be more defensively effective than Sergio Ramos, which is really saying something because I hold Ramos in very high regard as a central defender.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was an incredibly impressive performance from Varane as well. The fact that he stood tall against Sandro Wagner, as you said, Niklas Süle a couple times, that he didn't seem to be... he looked unflappable, incapable of being flapped when marking those gentlemen.
He made a very bad bird.
Indeed. And you, as you said, like Sergio Ramos, not his strongest game. I think... From a like newspaper headline, the way this game will be covered standpoint, I think it's probably going to be reported as Cristiano Ronaldo also did not have a very good game. I think that is slightly unfair if that is indeed the way it's perceived.
Please, what's the word? Please continue.
Because in both of these games against Bayern, I feel like I saw Cristiano Ronaldo do defensive work that I'm not sure I've ever seen him do ever, including when he was at Man United and when he was younger and still trying to prove himself. It seemed more about stepovers then. Tonight, I just saw a lot of moments where suddenly it was like, oh, who picked that ball up? Was it Asensio? Was it Kovacic? No, it was Ronaldo. Like he would sprint back and just poke the ball away or put in a little bit of a tackle or even sprint back 30 yards to just close down a channel. I thought he was very useful in the times that Madrid were able to kind of get defensive solidarity.
And I think it's important given we talked about the sort of numerical mismatch, right?
Yep.
Bayern had 5 midfielders and Real Madrid had 4. So every time he was needed, Ronaldo would sprint back and be that 5th midfielder.
Yeah. So I think even if he didn't score, even if he missed that one chance that will probably be on all of the highlight reels from this game, I think it was still a solid performance from Cristiano Ronaldo, if not statistically.
So what do we think of Zizou's performance here? It seems to be the topic of conversation is often, is Zidane really this great a manager? And suddenly he's in 3 Champions League finals. But we've been talking... So the first leg, we really talked about how we thought Zidane got it right in many ways, right? But the second leg, we've talked a lot about how, Bayern didn't take the chances and there's that Ulreich mistake and then there's the Marcelo handball. Did Zidane get lucky in this game?
I don't know if luck is the right term, but I would say yes, closer to that than anything else is my honest feeling because... Frankly, I think I want him to be an excellent manager. I want to believe that Zinedine Zidane was this amazing player and is now this amazing manager who can spot things and figure things out and make little tiny adjustments. And maybe he did, and I'm just too stupid to realize it. But as I said, we watched that game, at least the first half, I'm going to say 2.5 times, to really try to figure out, like, oh, it must have been something.
Why didn't Nacho come on?
Yeah, he must have had Kovacic step over. He must have done this, or he must have moved this piece around. And it did not feel that way.
Didn't we see Kovacic maybe go faster to James after that conversation?
Somewhat, yes. I guess that is true. But it didn't feel like Kovacic was now tasked with sticking with James and Toni Kroos was dropping in. And it just felt like it was maybe a few little moments, but there wasn't, oh, he's done this and he's done that and this person is now there. And suddenly Bayern are totally flummoxed. If anything, I think it was just that, I think your point maybe, because we kept trying to figure out if James Rodriguez had maybe been intentionally switched to the right-hand side because maybe there was some expectation that Zidane will figure it out, so we'll switch it up. But in the end, I just think it was James just made the choice to drift out to the right, and that kind of just played into Real's hands.
Maybe James thought, I'm hurting my old team too much over this side. I'll go easy.
So, with all that said, this doesn't just happen. You don't win a La Liga title as Zidane did. You don't potentially win 3 Champions League titles in a row. I'm not saying that he is just a lucky manager.
We're way beyond that, right?
Certainly. He made a lot of gutsy decisions. The fact that Casemiro was on the bench and Bale was once again on the bench.
The great thing about Casemiro not starting is you can bring him on when you're defending a lead.
But then I'm going to say give most Madrid fans a heart attack when he picked up his yellow card because he looked a little bit like Varane. John Strong thought that too. I thought that too. I was like, ooh, red card. That is not good for Madrid. Instead, it was Casemiro. So I think, he definitely obviously has a very good instincts, very good know-how, is a very good manager. But I think, yes, in the end, luck was on his side in this game in particular.
Well, was it Greg Norman said the more I practice, the luckier I get?
There you go.
Yeah, I think that might be part of it.
Mm-hmm. And then I think we always go back to, unless you're choking away the Masters, to Nick Faldo, in which case there is that.
I don't know enough.
Might have been the U.S. Open.
I don't know golf. I only know quotations.
Just a meltdown. Just picture a meltdown. There
you go. So congratulations to Real Madrid.
Yep.
They'll be going to the Champions League final in Kiev, yes?
Yep.
To play either Liverpool or Liverpool.
Yeah. I was, if you're wondering, listeners, I had a momentary look of distraction because I was just thinking, if you had planned way ahead to be like, you know what, by the year 2018, I'm going to be financially stable to be able to go to the Champions League final and the World Cup, you are bummed out.
I don't know. Kiev is apparently quite nice.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying that maybe the geopolitical situation surrounding Kiev makes it less ideal, and the entity responsible for that geopolitical situation just happens to be hosting the World Cup.
Wow, you were very careful not to say certain words there.
What do you mean?
Salute you.
I just assumed we're being listened to at all times. That said, we are talking to microphones, which makes that kind of key.
Someone might be recording these conversations, and it's me. Roma-Liverpool, the second leg is Wednesday afternoon. Well, Liverpool are 3 goals ahead, but Roma have 2 goals.
Yeah.
I feel like, despite what happened in the past, that Liverpool are okay. I think Liverpool will score. I don't know why I'm putting these predictions out there. I was under no pressure to. I'm just creating problems.
I'll go right with you. I will say I am predicting Liverpool score in the first 20 minutes. Roma win 2-1. That is my prediction.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Okay. I will say I am, with all due respect to Roma, I am looking forward to a Liverpool-Real Madrid final. Yep. Not just because Liverpool's an English team and they've got English players, right? Yep. You've got James versus James. Could be in the final. You've got Salah versus Marcelo. There's a lot going on there.
Wait, you don't have James versus James? What are you talking about?
James Milner versus... Oh, no, James...
Yeah.
He tricked me into thinking...
You really think he was a Madrid player?
Yeah, he tricked me into thinking he plays for Real Madrid still.
If there's a person on the bench... If there's a player on the bench for Madrid who looks like James Rodriguez with a mustache, I'm going to have some questions. That's all I'm saying.
He's like, no, my name's James. Anyway, we'll be back
James
tomorrow.
Rogers.
We'll be back to cover Roma versus Liverpool tomorrow. To close out today's show, we've got updates from the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
We sure do. I can't believe that after all that conversation, I feel like you really did leach into your brain that James played for Real Madrid.
I mean, he wouldn't celebrate scoring against them.
That's true. We do have many reports to get to. Many more also in the hopper for tomorrow's show.
We have a hopper.
We do indeed. Yeah. Have you not checked the hopper? Yeah, man. It's real nice. It's a deluxe model hopper. Ed Ritter scouting Ben Mines. I don't know what a hopper is. 17-year-old American attacker for the New York Red Bulls. Same story for young Ben this weekend. He made the 18 for the senior team, but did not play in the Red Bulls 3-2 win away at the Galaxy. Ben did get off the bench, however. There was a brief fracas when the ball rolled under the Red Bulls bench, and Ben hopped up to protect his teammates. Evidently, backup goalkeeper Ryan Mira held the ball, didn't give it back, and I think that started the brouhaha, if you will. Ryan Mira then booked for time wasting.
Despite not playing,
apparently has not played an MLS game since 2012, but has 2 yellow cards, I think, now. So there we go.
Oh, one quick follow-up on this game. I've rewatched the penalty kick decision. Now I'm not sure that it gets Romney in the hand. It might hit him in the back.
There we go.
There's not a really good decisive camera angle. So I've asked the UEFA extra assistant referee to take a look for me.
And I think he said shrug, and then when asked for further information said, oh.
He was looking at his phone.
There you go.
James Jones is scouting Andrew Carlton, the 17-year-old American midfielder for Atlanta United, and I'm going to guess Atlanta United too, because I know what you did this weekend, Andrew. James says, Andrew Carlton...
So much more specific version of I know what you did last summer.
That's good. Andrew played in 2 games for Atlanta United 2 this weekend. But unfortunately, both were losses that did not feature a goal for the other 5 stripes, as James is calling them. Andrew did have a nice run early in the loss to Charleston Battery, cutting in from the left and receiving a pass as he entered the penalty area, unable to score from a tough angle after rounding the keeper. He also put a late free kick just over the bar in the 1-0 loss away to Pittsburgh. Thank you to James for the report. I would also recommend following Scuffed on Twitter. That Scuffed are watching Carlton play for Atlanta United 2 and talking a lot about the sort of brief moments of glory but lack of consistency, but taking an optimistic view that maybe this is what Andrew Carlton needs, is just to sort of grind it out against professional players and get more consistent before he's ready for the big time.
I will summarize that as Scuffed are the only ones more obsessed with Andrew Carlton than Daryl Grove. James Pearson scouting Mason Toye, the 19-year-old American forward for Minnesota United. Mason Toye came on in the 30th minute for an injured Christian Ramirez in the Loons' 2-1 win over the Houston Dynamo. James was scouting in person for this one and notes that Toye made diverting runs for both of the Loons' goals, but showed his inexperience and lack of sea legs throughout the contest. Mason needs to work...
Sea legs made me laugh. I don't know.
That works. Mason needs to work on his off-the-ball movement when the Loons are not in possession, as it was too easy for Houston's backline to move the ball and ping crossfield to their wingers. Additionally, his lack of acceleration and top-end speed are concerning for a forward on a team that will be looking to counter with their midfield pace.
Ryan Marzak is scouting Pione Sisto, soon to feature in the World Cup, the 23-year-old Danish midfielder for Celta Vigo. Taylor just gave me a look that said maybe he isn't.
Nah, I'm just trolling you.
Ryan says Pione Sisto scored his 5th goal of the Liga season this weekend. Took the ball down the left flank, cut in behind the defence before sneaking the ball under the goalkeeper at the near post. This was the 30th appearance of the season, and Ryan expects that Sisto's steady performances should help get him on the field this summer at the World Cup.
One man who will sadly...
I should have read ahead.
You should have. One man who will not be at the World Cup for a variety of reasons is Matt Real, scouted by Andy Jowenson. Matt Real, the 18-year-old American left back for the Philadelphia Union.
You could have tickets.
That's true. That is true. He'll leave mid-season to go watch the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Real was benched for his second consecutive game. Maybe he'll have free time. In favor of veteran defender Raymond Gaddis, who, unfortunately for Real, put in a decent performance and helped the Union secure a 3-2 victory over DC United. That's not hard. Which is Philly's first win since March 3rd. It looks like there's a chance that a return to the USL's Bethlehem Steel may be needed to secure minutes for Mr. Real.
When we do our next Overlooked Stories podcast, I have a lot of things to say about DC United.
Okay.
Have you seen that email?
No.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Dylan Viach is scouting Kai Havertz, the 18-year-old German midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen. Kai Havertz, staple of the Total Soccer Show Scouted Network. What has he done this weekend? Dylan says, Kai Havertz played the full 90 in Bayer's 1-0 loss to Stuttgart, so no goals or assists, which saw Bayer fall out of the Champions League places, now 1 point behind Hoffenheim. Bayer dominated the game but weren't able to finish their chances, including a great headed chance for Kai Havertz early in the game that he simply didn't put on target. In better news for Kai, a recent article on Bundesliga.com showed that he's been the second most creative player under the age of 20 in all of Europe. Kai was behind only Kylian Mbappe with 20, directly in front of Christian Pulisic with 17.
Kylian Mbappe had 44. That's a combination of goals and assists. He's what makes him the most creative player. So Kylian Mbappe won that one handily. But then Kai Havertz and then Christian Pulisic was 17.
Not too bad.
There you go. Jeff Markman scouting Reiss Nelson, the 18-year-old English midfielder for Arsenal. Nelson played 62 minutes in Arsenal's 2-1 defeat away to Manchester United. Nelson's brightest moment in the match was flashing a header wide, but he generally fit in well, particularly given that he was up against Antonio Valencia. It's definitely a positive that he was one of several young gunners that did not look out of place in the narrow defeat at Old Trafford.
I like your optimism, Jeff. Kirsten Mladinia is scouting Briel Envelo. Briel Envelo, the 21-year-old Swiss forward for Schalke. Kirsten says it's a bit of a mixed bag for Briel Envelo this week. He started for Schalke in their match against Cologne last week and scored in the 5th minute by crashing the box, launching himself onto a pass by Konoplyanka to smash the ball into the back of the net. However, he picked up a muscle injury and missed the game this past weekend, and Tedesco has since... turns page over, come out and said that it's uncertain if he'll play again this season. Luckily for Embolo, the injury doesn't seem so severe that he will miss going to the World Cup with Switzerland.
Julie Nishimura-Jensen scouting Alen Halilovic, the 21-year-old Croatian midfielder on loan at Las Palmas from Hamburg. I have to say credit to Julie because I saw the news about Las Palmas last night and was like, oh, isn't Alen Halilovic there? And then I looked, and there's the report. Things were looking so promising, she says. Halilovic had become a regular starter under Paco Gémez, but the wheels came off the bus for Las Palmas in their game against Alaves. After a half in which Halilovic took several shots from distance that went high or wide, high and or wide, important. He was pulled at halftime. Las Palmas went on to lose 4-0, which confirmed their relegation. Julie gets the feeling that we may have seen the last of our favorite muscly Croatian midfielder in Canary Yellow. He is still owned by Hamburg, who Julie says have been relegated. Have they been relegated, or is it still possible that they survive?
I read that Bobby Wood scored a penalty for them this weekend and keeps the fight alive. But honestly, I haven't checked. So
yeah, but either way, it's unclear where he will be playing next season.
Not Barcelona, probably.
No.
Andrew Eggleton is scouting Ollie McBurney, the 21-year-old Scottish attacker, on loan at Barnsley from Swansea. Andrew says Ollie McBurney scored his 9th goal for Barnsley since his loan began in January.
Decent.
More surprisingly, after only 16 games for the club, he was given the Player of the Year award.
More decent.
Barnsley are out of the relegation zone on goal difference with 1 game left. Unfortunately for Andrew, who is a Swans fan, it sounds like Ollie may be going to Leeds in the summer.
Boo.
At least it's not Rangers, says Andrew.
There's that. Rangers, who could be coached by Steven Gerrard.
Yes.
That would be interesting.
And do you know, I left out of the thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you see Rangers lost 5-0 to Celtic in the Old Firm derby? And Rangers fans were very, 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 very unhappy.
Well, you know, part of the reason why they were very, 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 very unhappy is because that loss/win for Celtic secured the Scottish Premier League title. No. So it was the kind of worst case scenario that like Man United fans were concerned about is basically what Rangers fans had to endure.
And by the way, I have no preference, I don't think, between those two teams. So my no was just feeling some Rangers pain.
And that makes one of us.
I know, I know. That's going to be confusing for you, right? With a Liverpool player coaching Rangers?
Whatever, man. It's fine.
Whatever.
I have my doubts. I'll say that much about it.
That it will even happen?
I have my doubts about it working out, if it even happens. Yes.
Fair enough. Okay.
I think it is a poison chalice. I'll put it that way.
Well, thank you to everybody for today's Scouting Reports. We'll end on that dramatic note. Maybe we'll revisit that if Gerrard is appointed.
Yeah.
So if you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, it's not only good fun to scout a player, you will also be supporting the Total Soccer Show, making sure that we can keep on doing this. If you go to totalsoccershow.com/join, you'll see all the options to make a monthly contribution and support the show.
To be fair, we don't really have much else going on once the season ends. There's nothing big coming up.
I was going to take June and July off.
Yeah, that was my
plan.
Just
hit the beach.
We're not really going to do that. Don't worry, people.
People have been asking about World Cup previews. All we will say is they're not recorded yet because we're waiting for maybe rosters and stuff to be announced.
We're waiting for the season to be over at least.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So once the European soccer season is over, we're going to go full tilt into World Cup previewing. But we'll also be talking to journalists around the world about their teams in the build-up. If you'd like to get a taste, there's the Tiago Estevao Portugal preview from last week or the week before.
Neves.
Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves.
Oh, let's not go down that road.
We're going to do the whole World Cup with 100% correct pronunciation.
Not according to the UEFA website, which totally lied to us about player name pronunciation.
Do not trust UEFA.com.
Foshberry. Nice try.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for having a nice try and taking the time to talk to me today.
No thanks to you, UEFA pronunciation people, but thanks to you, buddy. Right back at you.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We know that other podcasts are available, so we're always grateful when you listen to ours. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk Roma Liverpool.